Wherever you're joining, it's a great pleasure to welcome you to this event organized as part of the UNCTAD e-commerce week. It's a pleasure to have you all, and a very big welcome to my panel and those joining from around the world. My name is Annette. I am the Deputy Executive Director at the Secretariat for the Enhanced Integrated Framework here in Geneva at the WTO Secretariat. We are a program that is dedicated to supporting least developed countries to use trade as an engine for growth, sustainable development, and poverty reduction. We support countries to integrate into regional and global trading systems, to create jobs, to increase their incomes, and contribute to economic development. And in this regard, I'm really proud that we have a partnership with ITU, and our partnership and a project we're working on is aimed at enhancing the digital ecosystem for the economic empowerment of women in 3 LDCs, in Burundi, in Ethiopia, and in Haiti. Our work is very, very important there, and you'll hear a lot more of this in the conversations that we're going to be starting soon. We're all virtually gathered today to discuss the challenges women face in accessing digital tools for the sectors that I just mentioned, in textiles, in agribusiness, and as well showcase good practices on specific digital skills development to include more women in these value chains in the digital world. We all know agriculture is a backbone for many economies in the LDCs, and especially in Burundi, and we have guests here that are joining us from Burundi, with 90% of the population depending on it for their livelihood. In Ethiopia, the government has been strongly supporting investments in the textile and apparel sector, as it has bright prospects to facilitate growth and bring economic prosperity to the countries. These are very crucial sectors, not in only the countries that I just mentioned, but in many LDCs and in many other countries around the world. These sectors are crucial as they employ a high number of women, and they have the potential to contribute to economic empowerment. Our conversation today is going to center around these issues. But before we get started, a few housekeeping rules. We will try to keep within the 1 hour that has been provided for this session. And so I'll only take questions much later on, and I will announce. And should you wish to pose any questions, please use the chat box, use the Q&A box. We'll be open for interactions, and we'll take the questions as they come along, either back in the chat or when I offer that session to do so. And with no further ado, it's my pleasure to welcome you, Ms. Anne-Rachel Ine, the Regional Director for Africa at the International Telecoms, for your opening remarks. Thank you, Anne-Rachel, for being with us today. The floor is yours.
And thank you very much, Annette, for such a kind introduction. Good afternoon from Addis Ababa. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where people are joining us. It is really a pleasure to be with you today for this very important session, as Annette said, on leveraging technology as a tool for women's economic empowerment. The future of the global economy is digital. 90% of the jobs will require digital skills. Information and communication technologies are an engine for the development and improvement of social and economic conditions. Indeed, digitalization offers a variety of opportunities for female empowerment and for more equal participation of women in markets and entrepreneurship. Yet, women face numerous barriers. Indeed, while they have the potential to bring real change to national economies, they still lack access to affordable digital infrastructure, as well as digital skills, networks, mentors, and funding. At a time where digital technologies are radically changing the societies in which we live, further accelerated with circumstances that COVID-19 has brought, it is crucial to address these issues so that women can take full advantages of the opportunities offered by the digital economy. At the ITU, we ensure that through the use of ICTs, women and girls acquire the tools and skills necessary to reap the full benefits of today's digital world. We promote an inclusive digital society where everyone, everywhere, can benefit from digital power. We believe that partnerships where different stakeholders work together are key to achieving the goal of digital gender equality. This is why we co-founded in 2016 with GSMA, UN Women, the International Trade Center, and the United Nations University, the EQUALS Global Partnership to bridge the gender digital divide. So far, EQUALS has more than 100 partners working together to empower women and girls as leaders and give access to ICTs and the necessary skills. The ITU is also very happy to collaborate with the Enhanced Integrated Framework, the only multilateral partnership dedicated to helping less developed countries in the use of trade as an engine for growth, sustainable development, and poverty reduction. Through this partnership, we're maximizing the positive impact of technology on young women and women entrepreneurs and creating a more inclusive ecosystem. Although there has been progress in closing the digital gender gap globally, and it has narrowed in developed countries, it remains much larger in LDCs, where only about 1 in 7 women uses the internet. This is why, together with the EIF and EQUALS, we have launched the project of enhancing the digital ecosystem and digital skills for women's economic empowerment in 3 countries, Ethiopia, Haiti, and Burundi, as Annette just said. This project works on broadening the digital horizons for young women and entrepreneurs, but also to reinforce the capacity at the policy level to mainstream gender in policies and regulations. And I'm really truly seeing it firsthand in Addis Ababa, in Ethiopia. That is why I am honored to be here today for this panel, which will not only discuss the challenges that women face when trying to access the necessary digital tools, but also the best practices in order to ensure more inclusive and prosperous future societies. I wish you all a great discussion and look forward to hearing from all our distinguished panelists present here today. I thank you, Annette, and everybody for listening to me. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Anne Rachel. Thank you for highlighting some of the challenges we'll be discussing today, pointing out the role of partnership and collaboration and possible impact from all the work that's being undertaken. Thank you very much for setting the tone and for the inspiring open remarks. So it's now my honor to introduce our great panelists for today. We have Mr. Jean Bosco Ndindu Ruvugo, Deputy Ambassador, Permanent Mission of Burundi to the United Nations in Geneva, Ms. Tamara Dancheva, Senior Internal Relations Manager, GSMA, Co-Chairwoman G20 and W20, and this is the official G20 engagement group focused on gender equity, Rural Women Working Group and co-leader of the Equals Skills Coalition. We have Ms. Tara Mulhare, International Expert, Technology, Textiles and Apparel Industry, International Telecoms Union. We have Ms. Huda Al-Sahi, Social Policy Officer, Gender and Digitalization from FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization. And then we have Mr. Moi Ntinjirinizigo, Executive Director, IPSDI Burundi, and Equals in Tech Awards finalist 2021. And please bear with me if the pronunciations were a bit not straightforward. I hope you understand. Thank you everyone for joining us. So we'll now start the panel conversation. I would kindly ask my panel to please try and keep within the time so that we also have the time to listen to our audience. Now our conversation is on digitalization, access and use of ICT technologies, and specific digital skills to increase competitiveness of businesses and the role of women in the digital economy, which are core to the discussion today and also areas that I think warrant a discussion by this panel. So I'll start with Jean Bosco. Ambassador, the government of Burundi is working closely with the EIF and ITU project to bridge the gender digital divide of women in agribusiness, but also to mainstream gender in digital policies. So what are the types of interventions, such as the ones ongoing in Burundi with the Ministry of ICT and Trade, that are significant to make sure women can benefit from the opportunities that the digital economy is opening up? Over to you, Ambassador.
Oh, thank you very much for the floor. Before I start to intervene, I'm not ambassador, I'm the ambassador deputy, so it's a different, sorry. I did my intervent, I prepared everything in French. So now I think that it's not the case, that I have to express myself in English, right? Hello?
Hello, I would suppose, Lolly, do we have interpretation? Can you confirm?
No, we don't have, Mr. Ambassador. We share with you some points as well in English. So I don't know if, yeah, you can go ahead. As you feel comfortable, in any case, we will share the recording and we can try to translate.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks for the question. Bon, je vais parler en français parce que je suis mieux placé pour intervenir en français. De prime abord, permettez-moi de remercier les promoteurs du projet FEI 8 pour la bonne action de venir en aide aux femmes burundaises en âge de travailler, en vue de promouvoir l'autonomisation économique de ces dernières en s'attaquant aux obstacles qui entravent leur participation au commerce mondial. Nous saluons la méthodologie privilégiée de se concentrer, de travailler directement avec les communautés sur place et sur le terrain, ainsi que le gouvernement du Burundi qui est censé prendre les décisions en rapport avec les politiques agricoles et commerciales. D'abord, auprès des communautés, nous accusons, nous donnons le bienvenu à cette méthodologie parce que, comme je viens de le dire, cela vraiment aide beaucoup aux femmes qui sont sur le terrain parce que la majeure part des femmes burundaises n'ont pas les possibilités de travailler sur le commerce online, le commerce comment dire, l'économie online. Donc, du coup, les ateliers thématiques ayant le but d'introduire la femme au commerce électronique et renforcer ses capacités en matière de compétences numériques ont été organisés, impliquant plus de 250 jeunes femmes et femmes entrepreneurs, non seulement de la ville, mais aussi des zones rurales qui sont le pilier de l'économie au Burundi. Avec l'avènement de la pandémie de COVID-19, où de nombreuses entreprises ont dû se déplacer en ligne, le commerce électronique est devenu crucial et incontournable. Ces ateliers ont présenté aux participants comment créer et commercialiser leurs propres boutiques en ligne sur Shopify, comment vendre leurs produits agricoles, mettre en place un système de paiement et cibler leurs clients. Ces ateliers ont beaucoup aidé les femmes à gagner plus de confiance en tant que leaders technologiques et acquérir plus de compétences pour pouvoir utiliser les technologies numériques à leurs avantages et bénéficier des opportunités qu'elles offrent. L'avenir des chaînes d'approvisionnement est connecté et il est donc crucial de connecter les agriculteurs, en particulier les femmes dans l'agro-industrie. Ces derniers ont besoin de compétences numériques et bases pour soutenir leurs travaux dans le monde d'aujourd'hui qui ne cesse de changer. Par conséquent, les femmes agriculteurs ont un besoin vital des compétences et les outils numériques nécessaires pour qu'elles soient économiquement indépendantes, car il ne fait aucun doute que l'économie numérique et l'autonomisation économique des femmes se renforcent mutuellement. Grâce aux ateliers d'introduction au commerce électronique, Les femmes bénéficiaires peuvent utiliser les solutions qu'elles ont apprises pour développer leurs entreprises et partager leur savoir-faire et leurs meilleures pratiques avec d'autres agriculteurs de la région. Au niveau politique, le rapport national lancé dans le cadre du projet FEI UIT sur l'intégration de la dimension de genre dans l'économie numérique du Burundi a révélé l'importance d'améliorer l'environnement politique et réglementaire du Burundi afin d'inclure et de relancer les femmes et les filles dans les politiques de l'utilisation des TIC et comment les politiques numériques affectant l'économie du pays peuvent être façonnées sous l'angle du genre. En outre, le projet a mis en place le consortium national des femmes au Burundi avec l'objectif de donner aux femmes les moyens de jouer le rôle actif dans l'élaboration des notes d'orientation et des lignes directrices qui les affectent directement. En tant que tel, en s'attaquant aux racines du problème à deux niveaux, directement avec les communautés ciblées, ainsi qu'avec les entités gouvernementales qui élaborent les politiques correspondantes, telles que le ministère des TIC et du Commerce, les interventions en cours au Burundi sont importantes pour s'assurer que les femmes bénéficient des opportunités offertes par l'économie numérique. Il ne fait aucun doute. Après la révision des conclusions initiales du rapport national, nous travaillons maintenant sur une version mise à jour du rapport national afin de refléter au mieux les circonstances actuelles de l'écosystème numérique et le rôle que les femmes y jouent. Après les résultats du rapport national, nous savons que nous devons poursuivre nos efforts pour améliorer la disponibilité des statistiques ventilées par sexe et par Office national des statistiques du Burundi, en nous engageant encore plus avec les associations de femmes. Par exemple, l'Association des femmes journalistes, et en recueillant les données ventilées par sexe sur le secteur des communications et des médias. Là, on est au niveau politique. Nous devons nous rassurer que nos données soient toujours à jour afin de guider au mieux la création des politiques numériques adéquates dans une optique de genre. Alors que dans l'ensemble de la politique numérique et le cadre réglementaire du Burundi inclut des textes, les références au genre, nous veillons à ce que les stratégies individuelles au pilier de l'égalité numérique des sexes soient abordées. Nous poursuivons nos travaux en vue d'inclure l'égalité des sexes dans les stratégies et politiques nationales. L'un d'entre eux, nous discutons actuellement, est lié aux déchets électroniques où le genre sera inclus avec les femmes ayant un rôle productif, économiquement autonome, avec de nouvelles portes ouvertes à l'emploi. Avec le consortium national des femmes, nous travaillons à l'élaboration d'une politique sur le genre et les TIC pour l'économie numérique. Au niveau communautaire, nous poursuivons également notre travail étroit avec les agriculteurs en fournissant de nouveaux cours et boîtes à outils, comme par exemple les cercles de formation aux compétences de l'Internet mobile, conçus pour enseigner aux utilisateurs mobiles nouveaux ou moins expérimenter les compétences fondamentales dont ils ont besoin pour tirer le meilleur parti des services de données. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Deputy Ambassador, and apologies for referring to you as Ambassador earlier. Very, very useful insights from you there. We very much appreciate, especially that twofold approach that you indicated, just not to ensure that women have access to digital tools, but also to ensure gender mainstreaming in government policies, that this is critical. And thank you for sharing the Burundi perspective. I'll now turn to Tamara. Tamara, as the new co-chairwoman of the W20 Working Group of Rural Women, what do you see as the three biggest factors preventing women, especially from rural areas, from entering and succeeding in today's digital economy?
Thank you, Annette. It's a pleasure to be here with you, colleagues. A very important question, and one that clearly is a priority for the W20 Indonesian presidency. Although I do have to point out that, of course, it's very much a topic that was initially championed under the G20 Turkish and subsequently Argentinian W20 presidencies. I hope it wouldn't come as a surprise, of course, to most of you that rural women face the same challenges that women and girls in general face when it comes to obstacles to access and usage of digital services. But of course, rural women are particularly vulnerable, which is of course why W20 has decided to focus on this topic as one of its core priorities. Women who live in rural areas are, of course, facing particularly a big challenge around multi-dimensional poverty. We know that poverty levels overall are much higher among rural women. We also know that they're a lot more vulnerable to climate and conflict vulnerability, right? They also lack connectivity, and on many occasions, even if they have connectivity, they don't have the digital skills to use the devices that in turn would allow them to take full advantage of being connected, such as a mobile device. And I'll refer to some specific GSMA statistics on that issue in a second. We also know, of course, that they lack access to land, credit, agricultural inputs, inheritance rights. And the pandemic certainly hasn't made things easier. Quite the opposite. It has exacerbated all of these barriers I just mentioned. So I think it's important that when we discuss their exclusion for the digital economy, we look at this as a larger issue, right? Because it's not just, digital inequalities are a consequence of all of the other factors I just listed. And they, unfortunately, of course, add on to the lack that we already see when it comes to the lack of rural women as active agents in the digital economy, because we can agree that we don't want to just look at them as users of digital technology. They need to be also active innovators. And that, of course, is a big challenge as well. Let me give you just a few stats so that we are all clear on where we are globally speaking. As of 2020, the World Bank has indicated that 44% of the global population resides in rural areas. However, rural women account for about 2/5 of global agricultural employment. And again, as I mentioned, rural women are often in unpaid, seasonal, and part-time work, receiving lower ages than men and so forth. So again, you can see how therefore that limits their economic independence, which in turn, of course, limits their ability to get access to connectivity in the first instance and stay connected. Because don't forget that very often, and GSMA research does indicate that as well, that a woman doesn't necessarily have an independent access to a mobile phone. That access very often is controlled by her family. Why? Because she's not economically independent. So again, very important to look at this issue holistically. In 2020, also, the ITU reported that 39% of individuals reside in rural areas. And we know that the majority of those are women and representatives of vulnerable groups. And our latest GSMA 2020 Mobile Gender Gap research, some of which was preliminarily released to honor International Women's Day, indicates that women are 16% less likely than men to use mobile internet in low and middle income countries where also the majority of the rural women population resides. So again, you see all of these barriers, and I mentioned some of them earlier when it comes to lack of digital skills, certainly, but also lack of access due to, of course, high cost, could be also due to lack of infrastructure, could be also lack of awareness, right? Or lack of awareness that, for example, the mobile internet even exists. Could be also because of safety and security issues or due to lack of relevant content. In the interest of time, I will pause here, but I also wanted quickly to refer to a few solutions because I think it's only fair to, when we discuss the barriers, to also briefly reference what are the solutions. And again, something that W20 is heavily focused on, especially as we try and reiterate the importance of this later this year during the W20 summit in the G20 Leaders Declaration. We agree that it's imperative that we remove the unequal access to resources and infrastructure. This, of course, also pertains to when it comes to access, increasing access to digital, not least, of course, mobile technology, but also financial literacy, because don't forget that financial inclusion is a big driver for digital inclusion. And here, the role of mobile money is particularly important. And we also need to ensure that, of course, rural women, that we create the economic opportunities for rural women, because it's not just about the women themselves, it's about also local, national, and global economies. So I'll pause here, and of course, I will welcome questions later on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent, Tamara. You clearly illustrated the case for rural women, where we must focus on addressing these many barriers and solutions, quite a number of solutions that we still need to discuss, the role of partnerships again. Thank you, and I hope that we'll come back later to expound more on the solutions. I will now move on to Moise, and IPSDI Burundi coordinates multiple activities through the 4 schools that benefit girls and young women from rural families. And I think this is a perfect fit from the conversation we just had earlier from Tamara. Their livelihoods depend on agriculture and livestock farming, and support the upskilling of these women with digital and entrepreneurial skills and the use of agriculture technology as well. So wrapping all of that up, can you tell us more about these activities and the impact the connectivity and digital skills on women has in rural areas?
For this good opportunity we gave us, but before we give you more, let us brief about IPSD Burundi. Coordinate activities in before school, ensure that young and women develop the literacy and the numeracy skills and have regular access to safe and functional education services. The goal is to not only promote enrollment of rural girls at school, but also to pay them the necessary skills for their future professional and personal life. Strong link between food security, agriculture, and gender equality. Special focus on young women and families that live in rural areas and are dependent on agriculture. Burundian female farmers face limited access to market, financial service, and agriculture input. This is in turn limit the productivity in the well-being of the family. Strong link between food security, agriculture, and the gender equality. IPSD therefore works toward increasing food production to address food scarcity and enhancing rural communities' employment to benefit families in the rural area that are facing shortage, impacting their well-being. Let us tell you about access to the impact access to connectivity and digital skills can have on women in the rural areas. Using technology in agriculture by ensuring access to connectivity, digital skills, and digital tools can enable women farmers in the rural area to produce more and make the farming process more efficient. Needed digital solution have the potential to revolutionize the livelihoods of farming, as it can help them gain more information on agriculture practice, access information on web prognostic, learn how to do better financial planning and budgeting. Women receive less compensation for their work than men, and disproportionality face barrier in their work. They are vulnerable within the agriculture ecosystems because of gender inequality, existing social norms, stereotypes, unequal access and ownership of resources, structures, inequalities. On top of that, female families have limited access to digital tools and digital skills. Teaching women how to use digital technology for their benefit, such as, for example, how to sell their products online, access markets, and the financial instrument is empowering for them and can ensure their well-being as well as their families. For example, the e-commerce workshop we held last year and this year for girls at IPSD was really beneficial as they learned how to create the online shop, target customers, and sell the product online, and then be connected with other women in the different area. I think that we see that these skills, technology skills, are very, very important for rural women and girls, especially in Burundi. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Amois. I think really important points that you raised there. And I think the one on technology coming into the conversation now and promoting online selling, the use of e-commerce platforms. You also raised the issues around food security, agribusiness. I think these are also very important issues, and connect very well to our next speaker, who's Huda. And Huda, having listened to Tamara earlier and to Moise now, how can digital technology support gender equality in food systems? And specifically, how can ICTs support rural women to participate and benefit equally from an agri-food chains and available business opportunities?
Thank you so much, Annette. Let me first start by stating that I'm very happy and glad to be part of this panel in this very important session with our distinguished colleagues. You raised a very important question, and my contribution will also connect to what Tamara's, what Said, and also our colleagues. So let me first state that unequal access to information is an issue that affects rural women who are involved in different agriculture activities around the world. Generally speaking, women have less access to information, productive resources, and technical knowledge, which leads to significant gender gap in agriculture productivity. To answer your question, digital technologies could support gender equality in food system in many ways by addressing the key constraints facing women participation and value chain, and by providing new means for women to participate in agri-food system. For instance, ICTs have the potential to rectify the information asymmetry that is currently experienced by female farmers by facilitating access to crucial information, that are technical in nature. Digitalization through mobile technologies can connect rural women to supply chains, service provision, and directly to markets and consumer, maximizing profitability by avoiding intermediaries. Digital technologies can can extend access to existing and new market channels via e-commerce, which was already stated, which has specifically flourished in the aftermath of the COVID-19 crisis. Furthermore, digitalization of financial services, as already tackled by Tamara, and payments can foster the inclusion of female farmers who are unbanked, which entails giving them access to financial products and services needed for at an affordable manner, at affordable cost. So basically, we all know that women who have access to bank accounts, saving mechanism, and other financial instruments may be better able to control their earnings and undertake personal and productive expenditures. But we need to be a bit cautious because digitalization involves the risk that the potential benefit will be unequally distributed between rural and urban areas, among gender and also youth population. So we need to also acknowledge in this process that ICTs are not gender neutral, neither in the design or the implementation, and that the gender digital divide is not a question of access to digital technologies, but about the capacity to make meaningful use of its access. We at FAO, we realize that rapid technological uptake without inclusive and sustainable development approach risk further excluding those who are not digitally connected, and that the digital inclusion of the most marginalized social categories, including rural women, requires a targeted, user-centered, and comprehensive approach. FAO is doing a lot of work to integrate innovative approaches and digital technologies in its core business practices and strategic priorities, including, let me give you several examples, the hand-in-hand geospatial digital platform, the International Forum of Digital Food and Agriculture, FAO Digital Portfolio, the Agriculture Community of Practice, the 1,000 digital villages, which are now in several regions and countries, among others. This approach, adopted by FAO in several projects, also to boost digitalization agri-food system, such as the Digital Skills Innovation Capacity Development Program in Rwanda, which aims to facilitate the development of digital capacity and innovation to meet youth and women agripreneurs and agricultural market needs, and to facilitate this process of anticipating future skills gap in the agri-food sector. Let me also conclude with giving another example. We have the Integrated Country Approach project in countries including Guatemala, Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, which leverage ICT to foster youth interest and ability to pursue decent jobs and livelihood in agri-food system. The program is currently piloting a blended online-offline training mentoring program, which targets young women in agribusiness and provide both entrepreneurial and soft skills capacity development to enable them to meaningfully participate in the local economy. I hope I answered your question, and now it's over to you. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Yes, you did. Thank you. Thank you very much. Again, reiterating the importance of digital technology, reiterating the importance of financial deepening, but being targeted and adapting to the situation of the women, whether rural or those that are not based in the rural areas. And also the examples that you shared, I think, have been really useful in helping us understand what can work, what can deliver good results. So now we've had a lot from our speakers before on the agribusiness sector. So we'll now turn to Tara. She's been working with young women and entrepreneurs in specific textile and apparel sectors in Ethiopia. And so Tara, what are the most significant barriers you have seen that have prevented women from digitalizing their activities and businesses? And which digital skills are they being familiar with to overcome these barriers? Over to you, Tara.
Well, not to sound repetitive, but to continue on the theme, access is a huge, huge barrier. Access to not just internet, but strong internet, particularly in the sector, you need to have very strong internet. It's access to industry information, and it's access to a network, a support network. And then from this, what we've seen is this misunderstanding that technology is separate from the textile and apparel sector. And then what comes from this is this fear. We find that a lot of, because they don't have this access to this information, they think that technology is so foreign to them. Fear is something that really is a barrier that we have to work through. What we've done in this project is really basically give that access. For the areas where it's more rural, we've worked with partners to do hubs where they can have access to the information in Amharic, the local language, making sure that they're getting this international information as well as national and regional, allowing them to really understand the industry. There is this misconception that we just put a website up and now we're going to make $1 million. No, what really is important and why we've been successful is really showing the different things that are needed for each part of the industry, allowing them to target the right markets, understanding actually what you need. You don't just put up a website, you also need to have a lot of social media, branding, all these different components, and being active with that, understanding how many times do you update that. So it's really making sure that they're prepared. A big thing as well to overcome this fear and to keep moving and going ahead is basically forming a network. We really believe that once this program is over, we want to have that everyone has a group of people around them, women entrepreneurs that are similar to themselves. So we've partnered people that have been in the business for a while, and then women that are newer. So that way then they really can have check-ins. We've even had basically, because inflation is a serious problem, we're having people doing bulk buying, these kind of things, really making sure they can keep their pricing competitive which is so important in a digital world. And this is basically, again, why we've had so much success. So it seems like such a silly thing saying access to information, but it is, once you have that power of information, you're able to really properly compete. And that is where we've really seen, we've been able to have some success.
Thank you very much. Really interesting, Tara. It's not about the breadth, how many things that you're doing. It's also about the depth. To what extent do you really understand these issues? And are we helping the women to be able to put all these solutions into perspective? A strong internet, it's one thing to imagine there's internet, but if that internet can't allow you connectivity, it doesn't really help. It doesn't address the challenge. I don't think we have any questions so far, so I'll probably circle back then to our panel and ask another round of questions, which I hope will also be helping us then to sort of come towards the conclusion, sort of final remarks. And I'll start with you, Deputy Ambassador Jean Bosco. I hope you're there. And really looking to the future. So how do you see in Burundi the future evolving? How do you see in terms of digital policies with the gender lens and the digitalization of women in agribusiness? Can you talk to us about how that will continue to evolve?
Thank you very much. And I apologize for the first question now. I will be trying to speak in English. With my bad English, we'll then be, okay. After revision of the initial findings of the national report, we are now working on an updated version of the national report in order to best reflect the current circumstances of the digital ecosystem and the role women play in it. By showcasing the results of the national report, we know that we need to pursue our efforts to improve the availability of gender statistics by the Burundi's National Statistics Office by engaging even more with women association, for example, Association of the Women Journalists, and gather sex disaggregated data on the communications and media sector. We need to make sure our data is always up to date to best guide the creation of the right digital policies with a gender lens. While overall, the digital policy and regulatory framework of Burundi includes in its texts references to gender, we are making sure that the individual strategies to the pillars of digital gender equality are addressed. We are continuing our work toward the goal of including gender in national strategies and policies. One of these we are currently discussing is related to EQUALS, where gender will be included with women having a productive role, economically empowered, with the new doors open for employability. With the National Consortium of Women, we are working towards the goal of drafting a policy of gender and ICTs for the digital economy. In partnership with GSMA and other EQUALS partners, and on the policy level, we are exploring how to deploy a capacity building course to support the work we are doing to create an inclusive regulatory framework. The course, built on best practices and policy guidance, is designed for policymakers, regulators, and government officials. After giving you this quick overview of what's next for Burundi in terms of digital policies and digitalization for women in the agribusiness, I would like to conclude by saying that we are hopeful for a more connected and equal digital landscape in Burundi and in the region. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jean Bosco. Really, we look forward to supporting and collaborating with you, all the partners here on the call, in delivering on this ambition. which is really, really important and very, is going to deliver very good results in terms of empowering women in Burundi. So thank you so much. I'll now move to Tamara. And Tamara, you're wearing different hats today. Now, as the new co-leader of the Equals Skills Coalition and the GSMA, one of the co-founders of the Equals Global Partnership, how do you think a multi-stakeholder approach can contribute to improving the access and use of digital tools for the empowerment of women?
Thank you, Annette, and another excellent question. I mean, I think His Excellency, the Deputy Ambassador, already alluded to that fact. He just referenced, of course, the GSMA capacity building course that we'll be delivering in Burundi on bridging the mobile gender gap and of course, offering concrete tools to regulators and government on how to do that. So again, such a great example of why public and private sector need to come together. But coming back to the power, of course, of multi-stakeholder approach and partnerships, it goes without saying that the Equals Global Partnership is such a great and excellent example of the power that bringing together over 100 members from across international organizations, private sector, universities, civil society can really make, right, when we talk about bridging the digital gender divide across all four areas: skills, leadership, access, and research. You know, I think, again, multitudes of research, including GSMAs, but that of many other stakeholders, point to the fact that no single stakeholder can close the digital gender divide on its own. So you really need a concerted approach. You need a joint effort. And this is exactly why GSMA co-founded the Equals Global Partnership in 2016, alongside ITU, the International Trade Center, UN University, and UN Women, because we recognized that reality and we understood the importance of working together. And there's so many great examples, but let me give you one concrete, since of course you also kindly referenced my new role as co-chair of the Equal Skills Coalition. Under the Skills Coalition, we have been working tirelessly for the past year and a half on a new initiative called Equals Her Digital Skills, which aims to bridge, as the name of the initiative alludes, the gap in digital skills for women and girls. We have a very ambitious goal of reaching 1 million girls and young women by 2026, and that was also, in fact, Equals' official commitment to generation equality. And as Equals Her Digital Skills brings precisely public and private sectors together, including GSMA, but of course also ITU, that is, again, such a great example of why we came together and created this initiative. Because we looked at the state of play, we understood that 90% of jobs will require digital skills, as we also heard earlier. And we saw, okay, what can we do? How can we use our own expertise and of course, resources to come together and close the gap in the most impactful way? Because of course, individually, all of us have many initiatives, but that is the beauty of Equals. It's coming together, leveraging common resources, common objectives, and really multiplying the impact. And this is exactly what we decided to do with Equals Her Digital Skills. And we've already impacted thousands of girls and young women across the world, including, of course, also in Commonwealth countries, where we really worked hard to ensure we reach them, not just with digital skills, but also with mentoring opportunities and with concrete self-paced digital skills trainings. Which again is something that we are looking to grow even further, and more exciting announcements on that will come later during the ITU Youth Summit. So I'll pause here, but again, you know, if there's one message I can leave you with today is work together, right? Join Equals if you haven't done so, and really look to partner, because that's the only way in which we can, of course, increase impact and do more good. Thanks.
Excellent. I think I couldn't say more. I mean, partnerships, working together, collaboration in frameworks that are delivering good results. And we're really happy to be contributing to this ambition for the 1 million girls. And this leads me very neatly to our next discussion from Moise, who's working very closely with the government of Burundi. The school that he spoke about earlier hosted a workshop on e-commerce for young women. And there's a plan now to work with the government of Burundi to celebrate Girls in ICT Day. This is observed on the 28th of April, which is this week. So we hope that you will all celebrate in some way. But Moise, would you please share with us one or two key actions that you see stakeholders able to do or contribute to, especially from government, to support the efforts of upskilling women or girls in the agribusiness sector with ICT and digital skills? Over to you, Moise.
For this question, I think that about 2 or 1K action that stakeholders can do for supporting this effort already started for upskilling women in the agriculture within ITC and the digital skills. I think that a smart partnership are more essential to upskilling women in the agriculture sector. For example, here I can give an example. For this, it's how we facilitated the workshop on e-commerce in partnership with the Ministry of ITC in Burundi, AF, E2, EQUALS, W4, JESMA, and Verizon. Together, we have made stronger impact on the girls in the rural area of Burundi. On this would not have been possible without a good collaboration between different stakeholders. I think that another key action is, which stakeholders can do to support effort is to invest in access to infrastructures and the skills in order to enabling women to access safe infrastructures and the necessary digital skills leads to the economic empowerment and independencies. I think to invest in young girls and to trigger the interest to have an active role in the economy of Burundi is a great key. We welcome then more partnership, more investment, and more support to give the girls a great opportunity in the rural areas to digital tools to be economically empowered, to increase the digital skills and open new door to a world full of opportunities to score up. And in our side, we are still flexible and humble for any collaborative. Thank you.
Excellent. And I must commend you for the work that you're doing and this emphasis on the young girls. They're the future of tomorrow. And I think the more that we can support them and the work that you're doing, I think the better for the world and the better for women economic empowerment. So we'll move on then to Huda. And often we talk about challenges of digitalization. We see that there are social norms and perceptions, and we've already had some of those in this discussion, that limit women's ability to take advantage of digitalizations. And now I'll speak about international organizations specifically. What role do you think international organizations have in supporting governments to address the underlying structural impediments to gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls?
Thank you so much, Annette. You raised an excellent question. To answer you, let me state that restrictive social norms may limit women access and use of technologies. And this emerged when we at FAO looked at gender-responsive digitalization as a response of COVID-19. We found that in Africa, social norms form an underlying barrier that is still concealed within other commonly cited obstacles that we already discussed, like including cost, infrastructure, among others. So, when discrimination population makes it difficult for women to acquire like good education and develop basic literacy skills. Their ability to use ICT in a meaningful way is hampered, right? So addressing this aspect requires understanding the target population and the social context, as interventions that are deeply embedded in context may be perceived as more relevant and more effective in triggering behavioral and social change. We believe also that tackling the discriminatory and social social norms requires changing the narrative in women and girls and STEM fields, providing relevant digital literacy training to rural women, sensitizing the communities on the importance of women participation in today's digital societies. To answer your question, international organizations can make a difference by working hand in hand with governments and other actors to generate knowledge, technical and policy advice so that national digital agriculture policies are conducive to women's equal access and uptake of technologies, and include financial incentive or other measures to proactively promote women's digital inclusion and upscaling of such intervention. Let me give you example also of FAO. FAO also developed extensive expertise in addressing rural women constraints and vulnerabilities by encouraging the uptake of gender transformative approaches to examine and address the root causes of gender inequality and to identify appropriate measures to enhance gender equality and women empowerment. For instance, we have the project on the women's equality and women empowerment in agriculture for security in Niger, DRC, Uganda, Kenya, and Cambodia, which aims to contribute to close the gender gap in agriculture by enhancing women's economic empowerment and strengthening their voice as agents of change. Upscaling this intervention will be achieved by strengthening existing and building new strategic partnership, as already mentioned by our colleagues. In this respect, FAO is committed to assess government and facilitate multi-stakeholder public-private partnership to bridge the gender digital divide and to transfer the constraining social norms to ensure that everybody reaps the benefits of digitalization. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Huda. Really important points that you raised, and I see the clock is ticking. So I'll just move on to the very final question to Tara. And Tara, knowing we had earlier from you some of the challenges and some of the issues we need to think about more deeply as we support women to conduct business online. We know this is really, really important, and the COVID pandemic didn't help matters at all. So as we've seen, there's a role for each stakeholder, and what key recommendations would you really give as we conclude this discussion?
I could speak all day about this, but I know we have a pressured for time, but basically not to keep repeating, but collaboration. I'm happy to hear everyone, we're all kind of in the same boat here, really believing in that. I think what happens is everyone tries to reinvent the wheel when each of us have really strong systems and different, strengths that we can bring to the table. And I think that's why we've been able to quickly scale our program so fast in Ethiopia. And because we've collaborated with other groups, we've used people's hubs. We've been able to get our curriculum out to more people because of that collaboration. And I think a big mistake, not a mistake, but a big missed opportunity is a lot of programs do not encourage collaboration of their participants. That is what I am really, really happy to see that is happening in our program. Just to see people that normally wouldn't work together, but because we've encouraged that, we've fostered that, we've done things that now there's a support system for them. So they're able to keep getting more access to information, access to support, and even access to internet. We've seen people group buying together. We've just seen a lot of different great activities, and it all comes from collaboration. And that would be my biggest parting words, would be just really focus on collaboration, not just with other stakeholders, but with your members as well, too. Thank you.
Excellent. I mean, I couldn't agree more. Collaborate, work together, harness each other's potential, and leverage resources, and in the end, collaborate. I think we would want to make sure that we're getting the best value from the resources that are available to support digitalization and the empowerment of women, especially those in rural areas. We're coming to the end of what has been a really excellent discussion. I wish we had more time for another round of discussions, but unfortunately we only had an hour. But we had a lot come through from this conversation that I hope you all found really useful, really important, and a lot to take away for further reflection. We ended on the note for collaboration. So I hope that we will go away today and continue that collaboration. And I want to thank all of you for joining us. I'm sorry we didn't take any questions from our audience, but I hope you found our discussion very insightful. We've come to the end. I want to deeply thank all the panelists for being here and for sharing your important insights. I want to thank ITU and the leadership of ITU. I want to thank UNCTAD and the organizers for the e-commerce week for allowing us this time to share our experiences on a very important topic. Digitalization offers a variety of opportunities for female empowerment and for more equal participation of women in markets and entrepreneurship. We therefore need to ensure that stakeholders collaborate and cooperate so that we don't leave any woman behind, but also to put women at the forefront of our digital societies. And with those parting shots, I want to thank you all very much, and do have a lovely rest of the day as you attend other sessions and as the e-commerce week moves on towards the next events coming up. Thank you very much. I'm not too sure if there's a plan for a group photo, but if so, if you could all turn on your cameras and we can all be on screen, I think in a minute we could take a final photo that we can post and speak about this good work we had. Thank you all. Lolly, are you there so that we can take a picture?
Yes, perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you, partners,
Thank
and
you.
thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye. Bye.